Hello everyone, my name is Samana, and in today's video I'll be talking to you all about important tips for a program manager interview, right? So if any of y'all have are applying for a program manager role and you have your interview around the corner or you're preparing for the same, I think this video would be really helpful for y'all. Um, when you Google, you probably get the question and answers and all the possible questions for a program manager interview. So I'm not going to like speak on that. What I'm going to tell you is all the possible areas where the interviewer can ask you questions. So I'm going to like highlight on that, and you all can actually prepare in all of these areas, and so that the interviewer knows that you're well prepared, and you probably end up getting that job, right? So let's start off. I'm going to talk to you all about the key points or the tips which are very important to prepare for this role, right? Okay, so starting off with the first point, see, as a program manager, it's a very complex role, okay? And it's a complex role meaning you handle different people and different roles also. You're working constantly with the project managers, you're working with the product managers. At the end of the day, you're also responsible for making the customer happy, making your client happy, and getting that ROI what the company is invested on. So there's a huge responsibility which is lying on your shoulder as a program manager. So it's very important to understand the different roles, like especially if you're working constantly with project managers because you're handling different projects which are under you. So it's very important to constantly understand what a project manager does, about the scheduling, about the timelines, about the risks associated with different projects, the conflicts which come. You have to have a fair amount of understanding of the budget, how you allocate people, how are the project managers allocating it. So you'll have to be very good with this. So there'll be questions which could be asked on how, what do you think a program manager does. So he does this, he works with different project managers. He also works with product managers, wherein if it's the companies which highly focus on the product. So that's, in those cases, you have to closely work more with the product managers and understanding that they're developing a product and selling it, sending the right messages across. So it's very important that you work very closely with the product and the project managers, and it has to be a very deep understanding about the product and the projects your subordinates are working on. So it's very important for you to sort of you have multiple hats wherein you are managing and understanding different roles here, right? So that's very important, of how you handle and wear multiple hats. So this is very important. As a program manager, you have to be very well prepared with this question in the interview. Its second point is, I would say that if you know some of the PM methodologies, Agile, Scrum, it depends from company to company. So different. So when a lot of people ask me on Facebook about this question about which PM methodology is important, or what's the one which has to be followed. So there's no particular thing. It definitely varies from company to company and the role you're in, right? If it's more technical, then yeah, agile. If it's more of an, you just want to understand the organizational part of it, obviously PMP is very helpful. So it differs from the role, and it's very important for you to sort of understand, know some of these methodologies, because that will just give a positive impression on the interviewer that, okay, fine, maybe you have, like, it's not just maybe you experienced with it, but you also have that certification with you, which counts a lot for a program manager role, right? Give strong examples about how you have solved or organized a project really well, like a program very well, from the conception to the closure. You have to be ready with real examples where you've solved complex problems. Okay. Third point is again problem solving. They will ask you questions on situations when you have solved a complex problem. Make sure you be able to answered it very well. Explain things with real examples which you've already done in your previous job, because that kind of it helps you in two ways. एक तो it sort of helps you um, explain it well because you've already done it yourself. Okay, if I've done something by myself and I've executed myself, it's easy for me to explain it. And secondly, it also gives a realistic picture about how you've run a project, about your mindset, the process you follow to the interviewer, right? He will sort of understand your style of working as well. So it's very important to be prepared with that question. Also, as a program manager, it's some very managerial role, it's a senior role, so you have to have leadership skills. So they might ask you instances where you have shown your leadership skills, how it's something this role is something wherein you actually get make others do their work, get your work done, which is not an easy job. So you have to give examples of how you have influenced others, how do you work in a team, your communication, your stakeholder management skills. Those kind of things are very important. How do you develop trust within your team? How do you make people do their job when it's a difficult situation? So those kind of leadership traits are very important. So it's very important for you to highlight those and give examples of how you've done it. If you've trained and coached people in your team, you've been a mentor to them, give those examples, because that will really highlight of how you've helped somebody grow, and that's a good quality of a good leader, right? So that's important. Fifth point is be data driven. Whatever you speak, make sure you back it up with data, because some mere content helps to a certain extent, but then if you highlight it with the actual data and with the numbers, if you've sort of accelerated something, make sure you explain that with the data, because it really helps and get a logical understanding about the progress you've done or the achievements you've made. It's something which can be tangible, right? So that's very important, to be very data driven. And if you talk to any program manager, always, if you ask them how's it going, how's your project going, they'll every time they are like, you still don't know like what's happening. You're like, there's a lot of ambiguity in this role, okay, because you don't know what's going to happen. There are a lot of changes, there are a lot of last minute changes which happen. Even if everything is going fine, you still don't know. Sometimes you are like clueless about a lot of things. So there's a lot of ambiguity in a role like of a program manager. Make sure you prepare for this question, wherein they might ask you how do you handle or navigate handle an ambiguous situation. How can you navigate yourself through that? You should be able to answer that and explain some of your qualities and explain some of the situations also wherein there was a lot of ambiguity and how you've actually sailed through that. That will also help you gain those brownie points, right? Next point is be very adaptable. Show skills that you're very flexible, because in a program manager role, there are a lot of last minute changes which happen, a lot of conflicts which take place, a lot of changes which happen, a lot of conflicts, mismanagements happen between the teams you handle under you. Make sure you're flexible, you're adaptable, you know uh, explain a situation, a tricky situation when things could have gone wrong, and how you coped up with that situation in the last minute maybe. So you should explain situations wherein you've really turn the table. So yeah, you have to be very adaptable as a program manager. Last point is the domain knowledge, of course, technical knowledge. If you're a TPM or whatever industry or the role you get into, have a very good understanding about what the company is doing. Read about them on the website, learn the projects they're currently doing, read the blogs which they post. That sort of explains what the company is looking at, what are their values. It helps you understand their working culture in a better way, and then you can put across your points also in a better way. And always have a domain knowledge, so wherever role you're applying, if it's a managerial perspective or it's a technical perspective, make sure you have the expertise, because that's definitely, maybe it's not mandate, but then it definitely will help you in your work. If you're it depends on the kind of projects you apply. If it's a very technical program you're applying, or a role which you're applying, make sure you have the technical expertise, whether it's very managerial, whether it's very communication related, more advertising related, depends on the program and the projects you're handling. So make sure whatever you're applying for, read the JD properly, and make sure you apply for the roles where you have the expertise. That's when you have a higher chance of cracking that interview, right? So these are the few program management or program manager interview questions. They're going to ask you questions which are more or less on these key areas or topics, so make sure you prepare yourself very well in all of these areas, and I'm sure if you try and prepare very well, you're definitely going to crack it. It's really easy, so make sure you do that. And if you have any more questions, please post on the comment section, and please like and share my video, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Thank you. That's all for today, and have a nice day.